In today's video, we're talking about how to eat for volume with Alyssa Spaw.
By myself.
What's going on, guys? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com, and today's video is going to be a little different. About 2 weeks ago, Alyssa here reached out to me. Alyssa is studying for her PhD, and she's taking kind of a unique approach to nutritional sciences. You see, she's got a background in psychology, and that's very exciting for me because I feel like the field of psychology, as it is related to nutrition and diet and physique competition and weight loss and weight regain, is so powerful. I've often considered myself like a part-time psychologist or psychiatrist because of the conversations I have with my clients. So much of it is based on having discussions about mindset and how to change things and how we look at foods. You know, one of my favorite things to talk about is how no foods are unhealthy, yet we can associate a food as good or bad, and that association can have a negative impact on how we look at things the rest of the day, the week, the month, the year. And so what I want to talk to Alyssa about, first I want to get her background a little bit so you guys can become familiar with her, because I feel like she's going to be of importance, especially in this nutrition world and in the years to come. She's an up-and-comer, but also because I think it'll give you a better understanding of like where we're coming from with this video. The topic is going to be kind of like volume eating, which is something that flexible dieters can get away from, because again, if you're just only focused on macros, you might not be focused on other things that are psychologically valuable, such as how much volume you're eating. But also because I think when we're talking about general dieters or general population dieters, they might not actually understand the value of volume eating. So can you kind of explain like your current education, where it's going, and like what you're passionate about?
Sure. Yeah, so right now I'm at Penn State University. They have a PhD program in nutritional sciences. I'm working under the advisor named Dr. Barbara Rolls. So she's actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about her book, but she has written a book that's more well known as far as the dieting culture, called Volumetric. And she is a veteran of the field. She's been in the field for a really long time. So she's very well known as far as like nutritional background. And so I got into the program. I'm going into my second year this fall. Okay. So as soon as like the coursework's over, we'll officially kind of get into the nitty-gritty research part of that. So that's kind of where I'm going. I've also done a bodybuilding show myself, so it kind of got me interested in nutrition and fitness. And
I might ask you for a question or for a picture to put on here.
Oh, okay.
Just so you kind of
I was like, all right.
I'll dig one up, but I might ask you for it.
Sure, yeah.
So what is the specific PhD that you will be obtaining in the future?
So the PhD in nutritional sciences will be what I will have, hopefully, when I walk across the stage with.
Awesome. No, you will. You will, no doubt. So how did you get into nutritional sciences? Because you told me your undergrad was psychology.
Sure. Well, like you had said before, I think that I had that mindset as well, whereas like, you know, your relationship with food is extremely psychological. Right. And with some of my past experiences where, you know, some people are a little bit more familiar, because I just kind of came out about my past struggles with like eating disorders and things, I realized how significant nutrition and your mindset are to, you know, your overall well-being. So I think that that's kind of what led me into nutrition as well. And I started realizing that when you create a better relationship with food, when you have a better understanding of the right way to fuel your body, I think that you just start to feel better in a lot of aspects of your life, and your mental health improves, especially in that situation as well.
Yeah, it's something that I've kind of gone through the ebbs and flows with, where, you know, I went from strictly being a flexible dieter, that the only thing that mattered to me was hitting my daily goals, to kind of finding this balance where, yes, it is in fact important to kind of have a plan for the day, have a well-rounded diet, you know, include the dreaded vegetables and fruits, or include, you know, things like fiber. It's just helped me, I feel better, like body composition wise, hunger wise, you know, a greater satiety, but also, you know, training, performance recovery, things have kind of improved as I've learned to like pay attention to the whole diet, not just the protein, carbs, and fats, right? So we start to pay attention to that. So let's get
really different, I guess, essentially. Like if you get all of your carbs from processed foods, you just don't really have the same energy as you would if you're eating fruits and vegetables and incorporating those foods. But you don't really realize that until you make that change in your diet.
Yep.
You start to really feel how different your body, I guess, performs whenever you're eating those micronutrients.
And I think that's kind of the, I think early on what we had was people were given, so we'll talk about like the fitness industry, like, so say you're going to do a bodybuilding show, the common thing was like, here's your plan. Eat your fish, eat your asparagus, don't ask questions.
Right.
Then we had the complete other direction. People were like, well, now I can just hit, and I don't like this term because I don't use it anymore, but if it fits your macros. I don't use IIFYM anymore. Not that I have a problem with it per se, but it just seems to me that the philosophy that is associated with that is actually like, nothing matters.
Right.
Eat whey protein and Pop-Tarts,
right,
and take a fiber supplement and hit your daily goals, and you're there. And I've seen that, and I've seen the problem with it.
Yes. I mean, especially the fiber, which is also kind of an up-and-coming research factor as well.
Right.
Like the variety of fiber you get in your diet is also really important because
soluble and non-soluble.
Right.
Okay.
And then from different vegetables and fruits, and I guess even just the source that you're getting the fiber from, because essentially your gut bacteria will get used to this certain type of fiber you're always getting, even if you're just eating the same type of vegetables every day. Getting that variety of vegetables is also as important, because if you're taking like a fiber supplement or something like that, you're always getting that same type of fiber.
Right.
So yeah, you'll have gut bacteria that are really good at that, but when you introduce some other type of fiber in there, you might have some negative side effects.
And I'm sure in the years to come, when we learn more about gut health and digestion, there's going to be just a lot of good information that comes out. You hear a lot about, yogurts and things like that are helpful now, but I think that's really the issue, is like looking for a shortcut when it comes to if it fits your macros by just going, well, I only need to hit my numbers. There's a bigger picture there.
Yeah.
So what I really like about the book you brought, so I'll post up a picture of the book here, Dr. Barbara Rolls or Barbara Rolls PhD. Why don't you go ahead and grab it? Yeah, so.
Mine lovely, like with all of my bookmarks.
Yeah, she's got her notes. Well, so that's actually your advisor, so that's really cool.
Yes.
And I had not heard of this book. I had not seen this book. But if I was given this book and looked through it, I would immediately assume that it was created by a contest prepping flexible dieter.
Pretty much.
So why don't you tell me the philosophy behind the ultimate volumetrics diet? And I think it's going to sound very familiar.
Sure. I mean, even if you're just like looking at the general title here, it's just feel full on fewer calories. So essentially the missing piece of a lot of diet plans is that people think that they have to constantly eat less. They think that they have to restrict their calories, and because they're eating very calorically dense foods, which essentially just means that per gram of food it's very dense in calories, or it has a higher amount of calories.
Right.
So you have to eat a significantly less amount of those things, and you don't feel as satisfied, you don't feel as full. So essentially when you're eating for volume, it means that you're eating foods that are more voluminous, and you're feeling that fullness feeling. You're not feeling like you're constantly starving, and you're also incorporating a lot of micronutrients that you wouldn't be getting if you're eating these calorically dense foods, because generally those foods don't offer as much nutrition as your fruits and vegetables and whole grains.
I think most of the people are going to be able to relate to this. When we go into diet mode, what we typically like to do is start to change the way our eating patterns are so that we can kind of enjoy our meals. Like, so, one of the reasons I don't really like the 6 or 7 meals per day plan is because those meals end up becoming so small that you don't actually get the feeling of being full. Like the psychological, like sitting down and being like, oh man,
some people really
feels
like
good.
that feeling. Some people don't necessarily like feeling that fullness, but then other people, if they don't feel that way, they don't feel satisfied.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe from an evolutionary perspective, that's probably how people learn to stop eating. You ate till you were full, and then you ate again when you were hungry.
But then when you think about the things that they had available to them, they could eat a much higher excess of those foods because they didn't have those, prepackaged meals that offer, or, going out to eat at a restaurant where they're a little over heavy with the pouring on the oil when they're cooking the foods. Like, you can't really control that, but the things that people used to be able to eat were fruits and vegetables out in the wilderness, so you could eat those things in abundance and feel satisfied.
Yeah. Or if you caught the elephant yourself, you could eat them.
Yeah, that's
All right,
true too.
maybe that's a poor example. I don't think people like elephants.
I don't really think that's acceptable, but yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense to someone like myself who's been kind of through this journey already. It probably already made a lot of sense to you, but what I really like about this book is just the way it's laid out. I'm going to include some pictures here on the screen. You know, as I pointed out to her, I think these would be really good Instagram posts because what it does is it kind of compares calorically equal foods, but how much different they look, like volume and one plate versus another. And even the one example I'll show here has food that's actually got more calories, but it looks like a lot less food.
Yep.
So, and it's just because there's less vegetables on the plate. So
Yep.
like visually, it's not as appealing. It doesn't look like you're gonna eat as much. So let's talk a little bit about the other way that this can go. Over volumetrics.
Yes.
Is that discussed in the book?
I don't really think she touches on that too much. I mean, essentially, I'm guessing you're referring to the fiber intake being so high that people kind of have adverse side effects, or
Yeah, basically what I see is somebody trying so hard to eat a higher volume of food when they're on such low calories, they almost exclusively eat like a really hard to digest vegetable, like cruciferous vegetables,
Right.
like broccoli, like cauliflower, maybe some Brussels sprouts. Those tend to kind of slowly digest and ferment, creating like that
Right.
bloating feeling. Does she discuss that at all in here?
She does not really touch on that, no.
Well,
So
I would say that's probably more closely associated with like competitors because calories do get really
Yes.
low and body
So
fat gets
people are
really low,
trying to get
metabolism
those-
gets slower.
very low calorie foods. I mean, I guess essentially some people focus more on like cucumbers and those more
Yeah.
water focused foods, but I think that because like asparagus and broccoli are two of those very well known, if you think of the typical bro diet, those are the
Yeah.
things that people put in there so that
Yeah.
we're more familiar with it. But I think that it's still important to remember that you need to be able to digest your food efficiently for
Absolutely.
your body to perform the way that you want it to. So you can definitely go overboard.
Yeah.
And
It's just like IFYM. I think in the beginning when my friend Dr. Joe came up with this theory, it was an exchange system. It wasn't let's just replace all of our whole foods with crap because we can.
Right.
It was let's exchange one meat source or one carb source for another that's kind of got some similar properties.
And essentially, it keeps you from getting bored as well. When you start to understand how you can swap vegetables, how you can swap meats, and things
Right.
like that in order to meet your calorie requirements, it adds variety to your diet. So
Yeah.
you're not, thinking like, oh gosh, I have another meal of like tilapia and asparagus.
And it adds interest.
Yeah,
right?
so
Visual
it
interest
makes
or-
it, I guess it's easier for your psychological mindset as well,
Sure.
just because you're not dreading everything that you're eating as
Right.
well.
I'll say this about like for you guys that follow Lauren Conlon, you have to sneak back into the
Sorry, I'm-
For those of you guys that follow Lauren Conlon, when she's in prep and she brings over her meals that she makes herself, she does an excellent job of putting like a different variety of like vegetables in different colors and kind of making the meal itself look very full and dense and interesting.
Yeah.
And she seasons it so it looks real nice. And when she's eating it, I'm like, man, I'm jealous. And she's the one in prep and I'm not because I tend to be I tend to be very boring when it comes to my foods because I look at it as like I just need to get my food and get it done until I get low on calories and I become a little more food obsessed. So,
And I think that's another thing too. Like a lot of the pictures in here, which he said he'll put up on the screen, but like a lot of them, they're very colorful and they're
Yes.
very interesting to look at.
I
So I think
noticed that
that's
right
another
away.
thing. It's like you don't want your food to be boring, and it's
Right.
essentially it makes eating a more pleasurable experience when you're eating things that look pretty. I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, there's a lot of research done on that too. Is that just and adding different varieties of colors is also important, just because there's different nutrients in different fruits and vegetables that are different
Yeah.
colors. So I think
it's
that's-
something I think I probably don't do a great job at is kind of having that variety, but I'm learning that about myself. Actually, one thing I really like about meal prep companies is I think they kind of get this. They realize
Yeah.
they can't just send somebody rice and a steak.
Right, and well,
Right.
even the meal that you're eating today, like I actually looked
Yeah.
at that and I was like, wow, like there's a variety
Yep.
of colors.
It has some
It's
corn,
very
it has some
visually
green, it
appealing.
has roast beef, rice. Yeah, yeah. And honestly, like the meals that I pick out, they're not only the macro-friendly ones. Like if you're studying the psychology
Right.
of me being at the store going, which meals do I want?
Right.
I'm looking at the macros, basically because I want high protein, but most of their meals are pretty similar. But I pick out the ones that are visually appealing to me because, it motivates me to go eat that instead of driving to the store to get something that might be less satisfying.
Absolutely. And that also, like, I guess that reminds me, I don't know if you want to touch on it too much, but like in the book as well, it's really great because she gives you charts at the end where you can kind of So if you
I'll do a screenshot of one of the charts so you can talk about it in detail.
Yeah, so they basically do it so that you can interchange your food, so you can match caloric densities, you can substitute things into different days. She also gives you a couple of different meal plans. So it's really cool that in that respect they do kind of give you a structure, but then you can also make changes depending on if you don't like something. Well, okay, I can look at this chart and be like, well, I like this vegetable more than I like this one, so maybe I'll substitute that into the meal because they're equal in caloric density. So it's really nice in that respect. And I think that once you're exposed to it, it's a little bit easier for you to do that for yourself. It is a learning curve, of course. It's hard to kind of get the sense of, without tracking, it's hard to get a sense of what's in your food. And I think that either people, A, realize that they're severely under eating, or B, they're eating way, way, way more than they thought that they were.
Yeah, I definitely have seen both cases of under-reporting and over-reporting what actually is in food. A lot of people will over-order and then just nibble and they don't actually eat it, but they think, oh, I had this whole big lunch and they didn't actually eat it. So I think, it's always going to come down to accountability. It's always going to come down to tracking. And if things are important to you, you're going to start to make some changes. What I like about this book is it's like a step-by-step process on how to get there. It's not like day one, weigh your food, track your food, this is what you need to eat. She literally has like a step-by-step guide. And I think you told me the last chapter is like, okay, how to venture out into the world and eat out.
Which I think is so important.
Of course.
Because, so it lays it out in a 12-week structure, essentially, which is like a lot of your typical diet plans. And I think those 3 months, I mean, even with my clients, I tell them, I think that a habit is better formed in like 3 months or so, because you start to learn all of these things and that curve kind of hits its peak at the 3-month mark. So at least each week you're being introduced to a new idea and you have that week to kind of process it and get familiar with it, and then the next week she gives you something else or another goal, and each chapter kind of lays it out so that you have goals that you're going to be aiming for each week. So essentially, if you have a coach, you kind of give your clients goals so they have something to achieve during the week, and it keeps you accountable. So the last week is essentially being able to go out and eat at a restaurant, and she kind of gives, I guess, tips and tricks on things you shouldn't be afraid to ask your waiter, like asking for the salad dressing on the side, and things that allow you to control
things that all bodybuilders do.
Yes.
I want that dry, no butter, no oil.
Right.
You have to say I have an allergy, otherwise you don't know if it's. I will go into shock if I had butter. So it's the struggles I think that we've all gone through as competitors, kind of trying to integrate into eating out and being social with our friends and family.
That's hard.
But it's laid out in a way that's kind of digestible for like someone like my parents to be able to possibly. So I'm very interested in getting more into this book. It may actually change some of the things that I do with clients in the future, because I really like the ideas. And so what I'm really excited about is Alyssa and I are going to be like doing more things in the future. So as she's studying and learning and as she's available, we'll be discussing more video topics. I'm sure she's going to have some great insights in the years to come. I think that's what's exciting about this process for me, not only as a business owner and as a coach, but like getting more involved in people that are going to be making influencing decisions in the future.
Yes.
So are people able to reach out to you, or is that a bad idea? Where should people kind of get a hold of you if they have questions or comments?
Sure. I mean, my biggest platform, I love Instagram. Okay. So
I'll put her Instagram name right here for you guys.
So that's pretty much where I post a lot of things, and I try to post a lot of kind of relatable topics. I like to discuss things that I've struggled with myself, and also like even just when you mentioned the good and bad kind of dichotomy on food, I actually just made a post about that yesterday. So I kind of talk about those things and try to get more information out to the general public, and especially with the things that I'm learning, I try to teach people about essentially eating a volumetric diet. So
the term volumetric, it's probably coming to a YouTube video near you. Definitely it's going to be in the title of this one, but I like the word volumetric. I like it better than IFYM. It's kind of a similar philosophy, but I feel like volumetric kind of implies, okay, we're going to focus on the volume of the food, not just the micronutrients and macronutrients, right? We're going to get into the psychology of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to convince Alyssa to start her own YouTube channel in the near future. She was nervous about being on camera. I think she did wonderful. She keeps drifting away from me, but that's because I probably scare her. So
he is like 6'3".
Any comments or questions for Alyssa, leave them below. We'll address them. She'll jump into the comment section. And if you have any ideas for videos in the future with Alyssa, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, we'll just come up with our own. And I appreciate you driving all the way up to see me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, guys, have a good day.
all by myself.